Today's episode is brought to you by DeSanto Propane. DeSanto Propane is 4 generations strong as a trustworthy family-owned business with unmatched customer service. Go online at DeSantoPropane.com for more info or call toll-free at 1-800-752-4574. Since 1937, the difference has been DeSanto Propane. Today we continue our series previewing local elections across the Finger Lakes by catching up with one of the candidates running for Waterloo Town Board, Mike Pfeifer, seeking re-election and joins me in studio. Mike, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, why are you running for another term?
I enjoy the position. We have stuff we still want to get done. So I just want to continue on. We have a good board, and we've been working well together. I just want to continue that.
When you look back at your first term, your first trip around, or first 2 terms now, I guess, around the sun here, what stands out?
I guess the biggest thing, and one of the biggest things we try to do, is the infrastructure. Getting people water that we can get. I mean, we're right now working on the preemption road deal, and that would have been done by now, except for COVID.
Yeah.
When the pandemic hit, it's made the prices skyrise, and there's only so much we can charge in debt service. So it put it over that cap. Now we're back in line. As a matter of fact, this week, we got final approval from the county to go ahead with the project.
That's awesome.
It is. So those people, they've been waiting. That's one of the things I wanted to do when I got on there, because I worked with a neighbor when I worked at Xylem, and he kept telling me, I want water, I want water. And I said, I'm going to do my best. It's been 8 years.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen.
Is water the number one thing that residents in Waterloo, if they don't have it, that's the one thing they want?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. What are the biggest issues you're hearing from voters when you're out talking to folks, when you're obviously you're on board? So what are the things, aside from infrastructure, aside from water service specifically, what are some of the other things that voters are concerned about this time around?
I mean, it's housing.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody knows that. It's hard, man, but I hate to keep going back to water, but it's a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get more I heard your interview with Ted and the questions. If you want to get developments and stuff, water and sewer is very important, because they don't want to put it out in the middle of a field where they got to dig wells and all this other stuff. So It's a big deal.
Obviously, there's been some criticism. Ted shared some criticism in his interview of how Town Board has functioned. Obviously, you feel differently about how Town Board has functioned. Respond, if you could, to some of those criticisms and how you feel generally about the work that the Town Board has done over the last 48 years.
Well, the communication part I don't get. I mean, we all have committees, and the gentleman that serves on the committee, he's the head of the committee for DOT and water. One of them is Howard Strader. He's in contact with the supervisor, highway supervisor, Joe Mall, at least 3 days a week, sometimes 5 days a week. He's staying on top of it. What do you need? And the communication with the people in the garage, it's like we contact them when we want to buy equipment and stuff. And as a matter of fact, we're just getting ready to order another piece of equipment. And Howard had met with one of the people in the garage. What do you guys need? What's this look like? What's it going to look like when you have it? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
That, and the fact that he threw our town clerk under the bus about his campaign. You know, Rose has done a great job coming in. She got less than 2 years in. She had big shoes to fill. Sandy was a Ridley. She was excellent at the job. Rose is working towards that. So when he said about the FOIL request, I heard what he said, that she's trying to impede his election. That's furthest from the truth. She contacted the Association of Towns. What's the procedure? It's the first time she did it. So they told her what the process is. 5 days to send an acknowledgement letter. She did it. And 20 days from that, after that 5-day period, to get him his stuff, which was November 1st. So I'm hoping he got it November 1st. She sent it out. So throwing her on the bus like that was not right. She's done a great job.
Of course, there were also the mailers that a lot of folks saw. Had your name spelled incorrectly. Yes. Obviously, you didn't have anything to do with those,
had
correct?
Nothing to do with it.
Yep.
In the two times I've run before, I've never had any input on any mailers. This year I will. I did have one I put together with Wilson Press. I don't even think it's out yet. It should be out soon. That's the only one since I've been on the board that I've had anything to do with.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the other issues. You mentioned water service being essential to getting growth going in Waterloo. When somebody says to you, and I'm sure you've heard this a million times, Waterloo needs more economic development. Waterloo needs more stuff, insert whatever the thing is. When it comes to economic development, what do you think Waterloo could use more of, and how should the town board approach that issue, since it seems to be a continual one that residents and people coming to Waterloo are always asking?
Well, I'd love to see manufacturing, but it's just not happening around here anymore. I mean, we're losing instead of gaining. The population's going down in this state. I mean, people are leaving. But, I mean, we're open for business. Any business that wants to come in, we're willing to work with them to try to get the codes and everything that they need to have done as soon as possible. But, I mean, it's big, but it's hard to bring in.
Is that perhaps one of the bigger opportunities that a town like Waterloo has, is to make it as easy as possible for developers or business owners to get through the process be able to actually get their doors open?
Yes. Yeah, I would say so.
EMS service has become a really tough hot button, not really hot button issue, but just a tough issue for Northern Seneca communities because of North Seneca's financial situation. The county is kind of trying to figure out what to do, kind of leaving the towns in the north end of the county to figure out. Basically, obviously, there's a deficit. How would you like to see the town board and Waterloo approach this? Because I don't think this is a short-term issue. This is obviously something long-term, right?
I've been part of two meetings. One that was countywide, and then we had one with them explaining. They were explaining what they need and stuff. And I feel pretty confident we're going to help them out.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to give them the dollar amount that they want.
Yeah.
But we've talked about it. We're going to hopefully find somewhere in the budget to give them money, and we know it has to be yearly.
Yeah.
So, and I think the county needs to take the lead, but we're willing to help out.
Do you think, could you see a scenario where the town board would basically advocate for the county to take the lead on that? Because it seems to some degree there's been a little bit of hesitation there that the county isn't maybe being as much of a facilitator on that front as they could be.
Well, I know during the one meeting, we've pretty much hinted at that. We need the county to take the lead.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'll work with them, but I don't think, as a town of Waterloo, we cannot take the lead.
Right.
We can help out as much as possible, but.
Yeah. When you're out in the community and someone says to you, how are you going to keep my taxes low? Given infrastructure, the expense that comes along with infrastructure, the lack of grant money that oftentimes exists around that, what comes to mind? How do you answer that question?
Well, I would say we've done a pretty good job because in 5 years, we've only raised it once. And it was minimal. And I don't foresee us raising it again this year. I mean, I think we're just finishing up our budget, and I think we're coming in a little bit under last year's budget. Yeah. So we don't foresee raising taxes in the future. But we're always keeping an eye on it. And we're always looking at the way we're spending money, where we can save money. I mean, years ago it was automatic. You needed something, you called the same people all the time. They didn't value engineer it or anything like that. We're doing that now.
Yeah.
So.
Environmental issues. Obviously, Seneca Meadows landfill. That's the elephant in the room for all Seneca County. But HABs, invasive species, there's a lot of other issues too. How should the town board, or how would you like to see the town board approach this in the future, given that there's a variety of environmental issues that all of these communities across the Finger Lakes are going to have to be thinking about, especially when it comes to something like water quality?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, keeping an eye on what's going on with Seneca Meadows. And one thing, I'd like to see them do, and I know they try, figure out a way to cut down on the odor, because it can be nasty. And I'm sure they're looking at all different ways to try to cut down on that. And of course, watching the water tables and everything, to make sure everything is safe. And I think they do a pretty good, as good a job as any. But I mean, it's the elephant in the room, and it's not going away.
Yeah. Another question related to housing. Obviously, we hear a lot of complaints from older folks who live in the community or in the region overall that there's a lack of senior housing available. But that's one of like a half dozen different housing related issues that every community is dealing with, right? Is this something that you think is going to require a coalition of towns and perhaps the county to address, rather than forcing individual town boards and towns to go after?
Well, I'd like to see them come up with some sort of formula where it isn't all subsidized housing for seniors, because there has to be housing for seniors that make over a certain amount of money in their retirement, where now a lot of it, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the one on Main Street in Waterloo was supposed to be half and half, but now I'm finding out that that might not be true, that it's all based on income. And the other people need a place to live too, that may want to sell their house and move into something like that for low maintenance and everything. And we need to figure out a way to make that available for people too.
Yeah. Last question here for you as we wrap things up. What's your pitch to voters? Well,
we're still working on infrastructure. Our comprehensive plan is a 20-year plan that we've developed in replacing equipment, adding water lines. As a matter of fact, our next project is looking at Brewer, 96, Hecker Road, and Edwards Road. So, I mean, it's going to be down the line, but it is on our radar.
Yeah. Mike, thanks for the time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That'll do it for this edition of FLX Today. If you'd like to hear more conversations like this one, check out the show on your favorite podcast platform or subscribe to the FingerLakes1.com YouTube channel. Have a great day, and we will see you next time.